How's everybody doing? We're back.
We're back.
Happy New Year's.
It's a new year, new me. I feel new and improved.
You do?
I've been saying new a lot in the past 2 seconds there. I'm going to stop now.
That's fine.
Should we acknowledge the elephants in the room, or do you think they...
That doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound good.
There's two elephants in the room.
Yeah.
That's not what I mean.
What
the heck is wrong with you guys?
What are you trying to say?
I'm not trying to say anything. I'm just using the phrasing, the analogy.
Asshole.
Yeah. Okay. May we acknowledge the elephants in the room? We may. Okay, so we have an audience with us for this cold open. Mm-hmm. Lauren and Marina. Mm-hmm. They have refused to sit in, but Marina may be coming in the future. So
maybe one day.
We might be having her as a guest.
Why just Marina?
Well, she said she wanted to, and she's going back to Ottawa.
Oh, I see.
I mean, she can come too if she wants.
You're gone next week, right?
Yeah, I'm gone next week.
I think what we'll do,
I'm gone next week. But
you, me, and Malcolm is maybe do Friday instead of Thursday next
You're
week
cut.
because Varsh will be here.
We got someone else.
And then we'll just have her come sit in again.
You're cut.
Well, no, not cut.
She's cut. No, I told her it's done.
Okay, well, I guess if you're...
Yeah, but Mark and I actually talked about a while ago that we want to do an episode, us two and them two. Maybe that could be a bonus episode at some point, us two and them two. You guys
could also just do it, you guys, if you want one day, and Malcolm and I'll just sit a week out.
We could, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely not. I mean, she's in Ottawa, so she has to be back first, and then when she's back, we
in
can.
The province.
I'm sure Malcolm was going to sit it out anyway, you know.
Malcolm, yeah. Malcolm's, I mean, he's not going to hear this.
No, he's not. He doesn't listen to this shit.
Nobody noticed that.
So also, I want to give one more, before we get into the show, I want to give one more shout out. Joey, a buddy of mine, he plays in France. He's on the plane right now, actually, as we speak.
Okay.
So have a safe flight, Joey.
Oof.
So that seems a little...
I thought that was going a different direction. Carry on.
What did you think was going to happen? What could it have been? Explain to me. What could it have been?
Can I tell you what I was thinking?
What were you thinking?
This is a very strange thing for him to just bring up. Like, shout out Joey.
Oh, I thought he was about to make a threat on his life and be like, you know,
like, watch yourself.
The plane's over the plane's over the Atlantic, and it will be in the Atlantic in 3, 2.
Oh, good.
Gonna pull some...
yeah. That's your kind of humor, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's your dark.
So, anyways, Joey.
So you think it's just weird for me to?
It's just weird because it's not like we have like millions of people that are watching, and it's like, hey, shout out to this guy. Everybody hear this guy.
Bro, this gume literally does shout outs all the time. Why can't I?
He does shout outs?
I do a shout out, and then you call me out.
Matty does shout out. Matty does shout out.
Yeah.
Oh, for who?
Tell me I'm wrong.
Who was the last person I gave a shout out to?
Greg.
For what?
Okay, but that was like that was
sweet. That was sweet.
No, but
nice. He shouted out his Instagram account, Stupid Little Guys.
I did.
Yeah, but he's trying to promote it. He's trying to promote it.
By the way, not enough people following that. Every day. Every day.
You should get them to follow it right now.
Every day, new little drawing.
He has
guys,
like a
on
sketch.
Instagram. Pull up Instagram right now.
Oh god.
I'm cudgeling them into it. Now go into your search bar. They're gonna unfollow it later today. It's called Stupid. STUIPID. I don't know. I spelled stupid.
Way to spell it.
Like, in case you're
Lil LIL. Stupid Little Guys.
Yeah,
that one.
He just draws.
I've just started drawing garbage every day.
Now see the blue button. You're gonna press that blue button.
Oh, I thank you.
Okay, there you go. 2 more followers.
Mm-hmm.
See, if you want something to happen, you gotta take action, right?
You're too passive, man. You gotta grab it.
I mean, I feel like I did the one shout out.
The one shout out
ago, and I was doing.
What was I saying in the training to all of our instructors each time in the feedback? It's about repetition. That's what I was saying.
It is. Speaking of repetition, like, share. Nope, that's not where the camera is. Like, share, subscribe. I'm used to 3 cameras. We're not even in the show yet, but there you go. Is your like, share, subscribe for the episode for the new year.
I feel like there was something I wanted to bring up before we left this.
Your friend on the plane, right?
No, not my friend on the plane. Some
snakes
tea.
on the plane.
No, some tea.
Oh,
there's some tea I wanted to bring up. I can't remember. That's what
Earl Grey.
Nice. That was a good one. Great.
Why do you encourage him?
I don't. It was a bad dad
You
joke,
encouraged him.
I encouraged him. I liked it because it was corny, but yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, I got nothing else to say. So if you guys are good to get
then let's get into the show.
Get into the
Welcome back to episode 43 of Wildly Adequate, the show about anything, everything, and usually nothing. It's a new year, bitches. Buckle up. I am 1/3 of your hosting crew, Mr. Matthew Urso, and I am joined by, as always,
Patty.
Mark.
Malcolm is deathly ill and is not here today.
You could say that again.
He's got like a cold or whatever. I don't know.
You don't know about deathly, but
yeah, he's fine.
No, you could say deathly.
we could say it.
Say it.
Perfect.
He may or may not be on his deathbed. We just don't have.
Oh my
the
God.
facts.
I'm joining you.
Please do.
Wow.
joining you.
Yeah, I really hope we can get to arms
The
at some
arms would be
point.
perfect.
We'll see what happens. Look forward to that and maybe in the near future. Patrick, I believe to start this new year.
Well, I mean,
You're taking
what
us
better way
away.
to start the new year than to bring up New Year's resolutions? So I'm just
You know, I threw my phone down, but I actually wrote some stuff down on my phone. I know you're saying like we talk about the topic in general, not necessarily our resolutions.
Yeah, well, we could do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just what I want to start off with is generally like, what do you guys think of New Year's resolutions? I was telling Mark the reason why I brought this up was because last year I made a resolution and you two made fun of me for it.
What was your
What was it?
resolution?
It was something about doing yoga.
Which apparently I hear you have been.
I've been doing yoga.
There you go.
I do yoga, but
I'm not sure. Honestly, I'm not totally sure why I was critical of that, because I think it's a fair thing to just be like, oh, I want to
Just
do
for
this.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
don't
you were
think
critical about it too, Matthew. You
Yeah.
made fun of me.
Just for fun. Not that I necessarily
Oh, you're
really
saying
care.
he's saying that we probably shout on you just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like that we weren't
Just
actually
for
like
No, I
all
think you guys
disapproving
were being
of it.
serious. You guys were being
Oh.
serious.
Oh,
You guys
okay.
were-
Genuine hatred in our hearts.
No, not hatred. You guys are saying that New Year's resolutions are stupid.
Oh, well, this is what I was going to say is I feel like we were just talking about this a day or two ago. I am sort of a
We weren't.
curmudgeon.
We weren't talking about it a day or two.
New Year's resolutions. You
We
didn't
were not.
just recently ask like a day or two ago when we were playing video games. Hey, any New Year's
Oh,
resolutions?
you're right.
Yeah.
We did talk about it.
Check your privilege.
Damn. What's my privilege, man?
I don't know.
Male?
Sure. Definitely not white. I feel like I'm sort of a curmudgeon with resolutions, but that's more just me kind of playing it up like on a personal level. Like personally, I don't really do New Year's resolutions, and I'm kind of in agreement with people who make the claim of like who make fun of people who make resolutions, you know, when it's in like September and they're like, my New Year's resolution when New Year's comes around is going to be like to go to the gym more. And people are like, why don't you just
I've
do
never
it
heard
now
that.
then?
So people saying it in September?
No, what I'm saying is people who don't
People
like
saying like, oh, in New Year's, this is what I'm going to do.
people who don't like New Year's resolutions have made fun of people who do them, saying basically like, why do you have to only set goals or resolutions on the beginning of the year? Like, why not just do it whenever and like actually instead of saying you're going to do it, actually start doing it like today. Like, why not? All that being said, personally, if people want to set goals, nothing wrong with that. I don't necessarily do it. I guess this year, my only goal going into 2024 is like, seriously.
Call it a New Year's resolution.
That's a resolution.
Start applying for jobs and like looking for jobs. That is my like New Year's resolution this year. But that's like the first time and I couldn't tell you how
Here-
long
here's my-
I've even done one.
Here's my thing.
May I say
I-
something? Sorry, Mark. May I
Sure.
just say one thing? Sorry.
Yeah.
Why do you gotta like do the air quotes?
What?
Why can't you just say straight? That's my New Year's resolution.
My New Year's resolution is to look for a job in my field and hopefully actually get hired doing that.
Go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
There you go.
No, my thing is like, I know what Matty's saying in terms of people making fun of it, like, oh, you could do it any time.
Yeah,
But to me, it's like,
it's a fair point.
it is a fair point, but at the same time, to me, it's like, yeah, but why can't there be some sort of like, because any other day wouldn't necessarily feel like special in a way, but for a lot of people, it's like a new year means like a whole new opportunity type thing. It's almost like you could boil it down to like a new day is a whole new opportunity, and maybe the people who are criticizing New Year's people are like, oh, why don't you just treat this new day as like you can do whatever you want to do? But you know, I mean, people get busy, you never know, so it's like to me, it's just like why not
Just to
use it as a way to reflect.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, it's a new year. Okay, how did last year go overall, and how do? Because it's hard sometimes to go day by day and like compare and like, but like when you think back and reflect, it's like, how did this overall year go? What did I accomplish, and what do I want to accomplish next year? Like, for me, it's been helpful to reflect and be like, what do I want to do? Like for you, it's finding a job in your field. I think that's great. So it's like, I don't necessarily think it's a stupid thing to do. I think that it's annoying when people do the same one every year, like, oh, go to the gym more, and then they just end up like quitting after a couple of weeks. That's silly for sure. But in general, I think it's a good way to just kind of like set goals for yourself.
Yeah, just to piggyback off what you're saying, I agree with Matt in the sense of like I've never heard of people who like be like, oh, like I'm gonna wait for New Year's
No, me
and
neither.
then
I've never heard of that, no.
But yeah, to those people, yeah, it's one of those. It's like a fair argument to say, oh, just like try and implement it now.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I'm gonna echo kind of what you said. New Year's just seems to be like a catalyst period where people are brought to think about these things, kind of thing. Like you said, day to day, people maybe aren't thinking about it, and maybe they should be. But in either case, New Year's is a catalyst period, and I think that's why a lot of people reflect and try to set goals for themselves, particularly at that time.
Maybe some people do it with other like I was thinking maybe people do it with their birthday. Maybe some people do it with an anniversary. Who knows? Maybe people reflect on certain dates. But I just think because New Year's is so intrinsically tied to like
refreshing.
Let's look back. Yeah. It's like every New Year, like even like I watch like a lot of MMA podcasts and shit, and they're like, oh, let's look back at the year of MMA and what happened because it's a new year. It's just like for a lot of people, and even like I'm sure a lot of video game podcasts, like, oh, let's look back at games of 2023.
Sure, every
and it's
podcast
just like,
the past couple weeks has been like, what was the game of the year 2023, and let's look back at the year.
And it's also because like everyone has like most people get like Christmas break or whatever for students and stuff like that. So it's just a way to kind of like wind down and chill. And just you have extra time to just think and reflect, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to talk at all about your resolutions? I think we talked about it privately, but like, would you guys want to get into that or not really?
Well, we can get into it now.
What
I'm
did you
gonna
wanna
take
say
it to a
first?
different place, but
Sure.
we can say that first and then go.
Oh,
I already
okay.
mentioned mine. It's just like start. That's the big one. Is just start looking for work and hopefully actually getting hired. That's kind of the big one. Because other than that,
Like no other general goals.
not necessary. Well, I guess on a more personal note, but this is something I don't even necessarily count it as a New Year's thing because I've already been working on it. But it would be like continuing to keep writing and hopefully getting this.
I'm happy that you've been
comic book
doing.
thing
I'm happy that you've been doing it.
going. Why, thank you. Thank you for looking at it and stuff.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, that's just kind of something I'd like to continue doing too. Is just hopefully getting that going off the ground. I guess like the goal part of it this year would be
You
to
need an
like
artist.
actually find an artist
So,
and get that ball like seriously rolling. So that hopefully end of summer 2025. When Fan Expo rolls around, I can maybe have something to actually,
That'd
like
be
I mentioned
so
forever
cool,
ago,
bro.
go sit at like my own booth and
Mark and I would come and buy
just
some
try and
comics.
again, not to like sell it to make money, but just to like put it
Yeah,
hopefully in the right person's hands. But that would be about it.
Cool.
that's cool.
You want to go, Patrick? Or you wanna
I actually didn't make a resolution this year. I've kind of used this break. I've been a kind of scumbag this break. Like I've been.
I can attest to that.
No, I don't know. I just haven't really been reflecting or anything. I've just been going through the motions, playing Spider-Man.
Hell yes.
Um,
You joined the PS5 family.
New Year's resolution: play video games. Play more video games.
I don't want to. I don't want that to be my resolution.
That's fair.
And I don't. Honestly, after I play Spider-Man, like once the semester starts, I don't see myself playing that much. To be honest with you, maybe Overwatch.
Star
Yeah,
Wars
we'll do.
Jedi Survivor's on sale for like $45
I
right
gotta
now.
play that one.
And I'm so tempted. I just bought like
I never played it.
I just
You ever
bought
played it? Oh.
probably like $40 worth of Switch games. And I want to buy Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2. It's like the end of February, so technically I have time. I don't have to buy it like right away. But because I have like my wish list, I don't know if you know this on the PS5, but on the store you can like set games in your wish list.
I don't even know how to set it so that I can turn off my PlayStation 5 with my controller.
Well, okay.
What do you mean? You click the PlayStation button and there's a little power symbol on the
There's
bottom
no
right.
power symbol on mine.
What does that even mean? Mine is default.
There's
Just
no
had
power
it.
symbol top right.
No, not top right. It'll
The
be bottom
bottom
right.
row of
When you click the
icons.
power
You told me
button.
top right, bro.
No, when you click the Patrick, when you click the PlayStation button, it'll pull up like volume, game based,
Oh, the
socials, whatever.
notifications.
Yes.
It'll just be at the very bottom right.
It's down there somewhere. Anyways, now you know. But yeah, sorry, just on this tangent. Now I see Jedi Survivor sitting on there for like $45. Like it's basically half off, and I'm just kind of like, fuck, I think I'm gonna have to buy that.
It was a good game though, wasn't it?
The sequel?
The sequel was rated pretty good.
The sequel,
at least
everybody-
as good as the original.
It seems as good, if not better, than the first one, according to
Still,
the general
the
public.
the Darth Vader scene, bro.
I know.
I was
Didn't we
so
talk about that? For
we
like,
did,
did
and
we
I
do
made a
gaming
clip.
moments?
I made a
Yeah.
clip out of it too.
Yes.
Just
that
how kind of
was it.
how kind of helpless you feel. when
Yes,
you
it's
can't
such
really
a
do anything.
fucking. Go watch that episode. But anyways, New Year's resolution.
But yeah, so do you want to say yours and then we can move on?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a couple that I wrote down. One is like, I've been going. I mean, for the last almost 2 years now, year and a half, I've been going to the gym for the first time in my life.
Bro, you look great, by the way.
Thank you, appreciate it. So I guess one of the resolutions is just to be more consistent with how often I go. I guess because I go, period. But it's just kind of like setting my schedule. I think starting Monday when I start school, like this week I've gone a couple times, but like I want to go like 4 to 5 times every single week starting next week. So that'll be a goal of mine. I think I have some like teaching goals in general to kind of like, because I'm going to be teaching science when I'm like a full-time teacher. I want to like this year have a really good grasp of the content, like at least grade 9 and 10, like academic science, and like really refresh myself and remember what was taught during those years. And so I can like be really confident in teaching it myself. Because right now I'm in teacher's college, but I haven't really spent the time like truly getting intimate with the content. So I wouldn't feel comfortable teaching now. If you threw me into a classroom, I'd be like, what the fuck do I do now? Because I don't remember half of this shit.
Pull out the TV and some VHSs and go to
Yeah,
work.
right. Let Vsauce do it. Just pull up
Exactly.
Vsauce. What else? I mean, I have a general one of just kind of like engaging with my passions more, trying to watch more movies, watching more shows, playing more video games when I'm in my free time. And yeah, the last thing I wrote was like maybe get into a new relationship and maybe find a new lady this
I
year.
don't have sunglasses, but date.
Yeah, so I don't know. I know maybe that's a weird one to say, but I just feel like I'd like to at some point like find my my life partner.
Yeah.
So maybe
There you go.
maybe it'll be this year, maybe it'll be next year. Who knows? But
Maybe never.
maybe never.
Just a spitball.
Such a depressing thing
Maybe
to
never.
say. Yeah.
And then the rest of the episode, I'm like,
It's just silently sobbing to himself.
Just to piggyback here, I would say if I were to think about it, I think I'm pretty serious about joining like some sort of fighting gym.
oh, dude, that's one too.
I
for sure.
think I really want to for this year to like get into it and
Honestly,
eventually start sparring. I
when
would
you-
say that's what I want to work to.
when you come back, I'm open to checking out the one that we were thinking about and actually seeing what the weightlifting room is like. Because if the lifting room is like as good or in and around the same as the one I go to now,
Yeah.
I'll pay whatever it is double to like have lessons and stuff like that, and then also be able to go to the gym.
Yeah.
It's just like a matter of like fitting
matter
that
of the
sort of
setup.
stuff. Yeah, and also fitting that sort of like how many times a week are we going to be going
Yeah.
for it to be worthwhile?
Yeah, we got to sort it out. Right?
And then like with our schedules and stuff, it might be tough, but we'll try to figure it out.
yeah. And also, do you want to say something?
No, you finish your point because I have a little side note.
I was going to say sort of a resolution for the podcast.
Mm.
Not to belittle sort of what we've done, because I'm pretty proud of what we've done so far. I was going to say like our, sorry, had a little thing in my
Hairball.
throat there. Jesus.
Hairball.
Not to
projectile vomits everywhere.
Not to belittle what we've done. Like I'm proud of what we've done.
Mhm.
But I was going to say a resolution we can do for the podcast is trying to, again, push our limits to make it more professional
Mhm.
looking. And I talked to you a little bit about today, like I have been reflecting over the past couple of days, and I think we can do more to like make it more proper. And I was even thinking about like different kinds of topics I want to do this year. And
You're saying content wise, make it more.
I'm talking about setup and content wise. I'm talking about both.
It's
Yeah.
interesting
Because I feel,
yeah,
I-
I feel like when it comes, sorry, it's okay. When it comes to like content wise, I've always felt like I've my wish for the podcast is for it to be as like fun and funny and casual as it can be. And when I reflect, I think like sometimes I feel like our topics are like a little bit too prepared or too like, oh, everyone's coming with like we have to talk about this, and like obviously we go off on tangents all the time, like we've done it already today.
yeah.
But I think in general, like for myself at least, because obviously it's like I can only control what I'm putting out, and the general idea of what I like to watch is people like spontaneously talking about funny shit and just being random and weird and interesting.
Yeah.
So like I want to push myself to be more like in one way more thoughtful about the kind of things that I'm talking about, and in another way more loose about it. Just to like not really have a set I have to talk about this.
Yeah.
For me, I am in agreement with you of that. It would be nice to change the setup a bit. Not so much like the posters, the TV, all that stuff. I think is fine. But
Yeah.
it's more like if we had a slightly different table, maybe different chairs, or like mini couches or some shit.
I think
and, like,
I think the couches would be cool.
even with
Yeah,
the
it could be
arm
cool, yeah.
here, like I like the idea already. Just playing with that arm, I would like the idea of just having it floating.
It
kinda
looks
thing. I
dope.
just don't think it works with this. With the four of us, I don't think it necessarily works, but I think there is a way to do it. We just have to like play with it. But like, so the setup would be nice. Content wise, the only thing that jumps out to me is I think it was doing the bonus episodes we did, which hopefully you just watched all three of them over the past few weeks. But like the Game Awards one, the UTM one, and the one that I recorded today with my dad, it would be nice to like play with the show a little bit more.
I was gonna say. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, I know what you were just saying about like not necessarily making it like super rigid, but like I don't know, it would be nice every once in a while if we had like a, not even if it's just one topic, but if it was like one overarching topic that we each could make a topic out of,
Like a theme.
and then it was like a themed episode.
You know what I've seen? Like I've seen the idea of like having like a bowl with topic ideas like we did before.
Right.
But like we could pick from it and then we all talk about the same idea. Or we could even just test for fun, have like a side episode where like the no topic episode where we all just come in and start talking and see where it goes for 2 hours.
Yeah, just shoot
Like
the
no
shit.
idea. I think that'll be funnier and more interesting than sometimes the planning potentially.
Or even just like what you were mentioning before, Patrick, about like you two doing an episode with the girls, or like I even think in my head like it would be funny one week to do one like I said, hopefully Varsha will be here next week, but it would be fun to do one like just her and I one week of just like a one-on-one like chat for like, so just kind of playing with like,
I agree with that.
I know we've had guests and stuff before, and we'll continue to do that, you know, when it happens kind of thing, but just like playing around more with like
How
the structure of the show or what it is, or like also doing things like, you know, still doing the Instagram clips, and like hopefully maybe at some point in the spring going to like Guelph, like we had talked about, like doing another university episode. I think would be a lot of fun, and especially now that we kind of have a slightly better understanding of how to like fix it from the first time we did it.
I was gonna say we have an option as well for the university one. I was gonna bring up Guelph. We could do sorry, in the spirit of playing with the structure, like playing with the show, we could do an episode in the library where it's like like a quieter setting, and like we're talking with people, and it's like they have floors and like areas where it's like open, like you can speak, so it's not just quiet study, and have sort of the episode there or part of the episode there, even like we can, because part of my worry is I think I got lucky getting us a spot at UTM, and I don't think Malcolm will be as fortunate at Guelph getting a spot.
I know at York there's like podcasting rooms.
That's right, there is actually one at UTM as well.
Isn't there a way to just go to like
the thing is I don't know if we can set up outside anywhere,
but that's what I'm saying. Isn't there a way to just go to like the public part of a university campus? Because a lot of university campuses and college campuses, you can just like walk the grounds.
But to me,
you can just walk the grounds, but to set up and have something, you need permission.
But to me,
I guess. But I feel like even that, we would just have to reach out to the school and just be like, hey, like, one of us is
Like,
currently going here. One of us went here. Like, we've got 2 alumni, basically, and we just want to kind of sit and, like, do our thing for a couple hours.
My thing is, like, don't get me wrong, like, it was fun doing the episode, but, like, what's the purpose of going back to a public university space? Like, in terms of the episode.
Like, to do, like, another one of those episodes.
Just, like, have, like, a mix-up?
Because have, like,
Just,
a mix-up. I like watching it back, I enjoyed it.
It was
like,
an
doing
enjoyable.
it, like, I had a fun
Yeah,
time.
me too.
I think it would be part mix-up, part, like, not that it necessarily worked with the UTM one, but also a part of, like, is there any way to drive any sort of, like, viewership or
spread the message
engagement?
type
Like,
thing?
is there any way to increase that by
right.
doing the university things? Maybe, maybe not. Like I said, with the UTM one, it didn't necessarily, like, blow the fuck up or anything, but yeah, so I don't know. It would be, that's just to me the thing of, like, yeah, maybe change the setup, the actual physical set of what we do, and then just, you know, play around with it.
I would love for all 4 of us to have individual beanbag type chairs. We're not necessarily laying down, but it's like we're chilling, like slanted a little bit, and like one here, like 4 of them, and then like we have 4 cameras, and each individual person has or maybe we can do it the same way, like 2 and 2, whatever. But
yeah, we'll have to see. And
once this table is gone, to be honest with you, we're gonna be way less restricted, in my opinion. This table is huge.
it is very big.
You know what I'm saying? But anyways, I want to move on to sort of the statistics related to New Year's resolutions.
Okay.
So there's 4 broad categories here. How many people make New Year's resolutions?
Can we play a guessing game?
We could play a guessing game. There's how many people make.
Matty, don't look.
What are common New Year's resolutions?
Okay.
How many New Year's resolutions come true? And the last category is why do they fail? So what do you guys want to start with? We can just go
Whatever
top
you
to
want.
bottom if you want.
Sure.
So the first
are those 4 specific questions, or those 4 things have like
There's
a
like
bunch
sub-
of things
there's
under
like
them?
sub-
Oh, interesting.
I see.
Okay, so what's like the first one?
So this first point talks about the number of adults that make them.
Sure.
Percentage?
A percentage. And this website is, it seems like an open source research sort of website where they just publish stuff. We can include the link for people to see if they want.
Okay, let's go percentages here.
But,
I'm going 70.
Yeah, I'm in a similar ballpark. I was gonna say like 65.
Okay.
What is
So
it?
38% of adults
Wow.
will at least make a New Year's resolution. That's weird phrasing. While these resolutions often don't pan out, most adults head into them feeling positive. So 81% of the 38 feel positive. Of that group, 86% of men feel confident that they'll stick to their goals, and 79% of
Sounds
women
about
feel
right.
confident.
What was the women's statistic?
79.
Yeah,
men
that
are
sounds-
more
I was gonna
overconfident.
say, yeah, it sounds like men all right. Be like, fuck yeah, I can do it. And women being more realistic of like, we'll see what happens.
This next bullet point is asking about Gen Zers and
Gen Z is what, our generation?
our generation.
Yeah, are we Zoomers technically?
What
That's a horrifying thought.
What
is before us.
what's like the range of years for Gen Z?
1997, I want to say.
So we just made the cutoff.
to
So
2000.
we were almost Gen X,
Yes.
or is millennials?
Because I think it's
Millennials is before us.
It's millennials.
How many before us? 2 or just 1?
one, and then boomers, I think.
So what's
It's
Gen
millennials
X?
And boomers.
What's
Gen
Gen
X
X,
is
younger?
after us, I think.
No, there's got to be something else in there. There's no way it's millennials, boomers, us.
I don't know
There has
about
to
all
be
this,
something
to be
else.
Gen X is after boomers,
fucking-
I think, isn't it?
Is
Or is
it?
Gen
I
X
think so.
older?
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
This sounds like some astrology type shit. I don't know what the fuck's
I'm
happening.
getting a little scared here.
Yeah, I'm confused and
This is
scared. My
this-
fight or flight is activating.
This next one's asking the percentage of Gen Zers who feel pressure to make resolutions.
40%?
Oh God, yeah, I would say like maybe like high 20s, 28.
Nearly 40% of Gen
Whoa.
Zers
All right.
feel pressure to make a resolution. This is likely the reason why there are so many failed New Year's resolutions in the first place. Additionally, men, so 35% of them, feel more pressured than women, 28% of them, to make yearly goals.
Interesting.
This next point is asking about parents that make New Year's resolutions.
Mm.
Okay.
What percentage of them make?
55. Can I change my answer? 45.
60.
54%.
Oh, it's closer. I don't know why I
54%
changed
of
it. What did I say?
You said
55.
55.
Oh my god, I was
You were
percentage
close.
off.
You were really close.
Damn.
I'm going to skip ahead to the next category
This
here.
reminds
There's a
me
few
of
more
Gaspionage.
points.
I fucking hate
Yeah,
Gaspionage.
right?
Gaspionage. Well, actually,
It's a fun game.
I hate it, but it's fun.
I
It's fun
fucking
to
hate
say.
Gaspionage.
So what are common New Year's resolutions? Okay.
Gym.
So
Lose
what?
weight.
Yeah.
What? Well, I'll tell you
Oh,
the
sorry.
percentage thing, right? So, what percentage of adults set their goal to be fitness, improving their fitness?
Oh God.
What percentage of the ones that chose to do it?
Yeah, like what percentage of adults make their resolution fitness related?
85.
75.
Final answers.
Mhm.
39% of adults set a goal of improving their fitness.
What's what's the
Wow.
other 70% or 60%?
Other similar, I don't know. I
Like
don't know.
what's the majority of the resolutions then?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
There's these numbers aren't really adding up, but we'll get to it. Other similar resolutions include sticking to their diet, 33%,
Sure.
losing weight, 37%,
Sure.
and just 6% of people list cutting down on alcohol consumption. as a goal. What percentage of people want to improve their mental health or like set it as a goal?
Like
Mental
20%.
20%. Okay. What do you think, Matt?
Improve their mental health. I will toss out an even down the middle 50.
81%.
All right.
81% of people set. mental
I've
health as a
never heard
priority.
people being like, I want my mental health to be better this year. I'm
Maybe
sure it
it's a-
happens,
Maybe
but,
it's a recent thing. Like, I don't
Maybe.
know. Yeah.
Mm.
but
uh,
that
Mhm.
doesn't seem to make sense to me because everybody you talk to is like, get in better shape, get in better shape, get in better shape. I never hear the hell mental
Well,
health
yeah,
thing.
yeah. That's
That's good that it's like a
maybe it's like a paired thing. Like they
Mm.
also think it's important to
Maybe.
do whether they're like whatever their main one is. How many New Year's resolutions come true?
Oh God.
This is the answer everyone's been waiting for, and this is why I said in the beginning, you guys sort of had a point in saying they're stupid. I guess. in a
15.
sense.
20,
What was your guess? Sorry,
15.
15%,
20%.
Just 9%
Percent.
of
Mm.
adults keep the resolutions all year
Wrong.
On the opposite end of the spectrum, 80% of New Year's resolutions are forgotten by midwinter, while many adults, 23%, quit the first week of the year. Wow, a quarter. That's crazy. We have a few other ones here that I'm just gonna skip ahead to. We've been on this for a little
Yeah.
bit. So the last topic here, the last category here: why do New Year's resolutions fail?
Mm.
So what percentage of adults will not follow through on a resolution? It's 92%. It's just about the opposite of that percentage. It says watch out for Fridays. That strangely a lot of people give up on their resolutions on Fridays.
Interesting.
Okay, what percentage of goal setters forget their resolution by February?
Oh God.
Forget it.
Forget
45.
62.
43.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
43% of people forget by February. And the website's trying to comfort them. I don't know why. This is normal. The excitement of the new year wears off, and people simply become distracted with their
Hey,
duties.
You're good.
Some tips to
Don't
keep
worry
New Year's
about it.
resolutions include planning out your goal, making your goal specific, and not making too many.
Mm. Cool.
Duh. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, that's sort of just some of the stuff I wanted to make salient. And yeah, so if we're cool, then I'm good too.
Yeah.
There you go. New Year's resolutions. What
New
sounds like we got some
Year's.
good ones.
Comment your resolutions
Please.
below.
I'd like to see some.
Exactly. Please. And you better stick to it.
You better stick to it. Honestly, Lemma, if you comment,
But listen, if you forget it by February, it's fine.
43% of people do.
But
so.
also, we will come and find you.
I
if
mean,
you
we
forget
can
it.
hold her accountable. That's the thing. So Lemma,
Sure.
be wary if you.
She's in our orbit.
She's in our orbit.
We'll find
Okay.
you.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Now, I picked my topic relatively last second, so I'll start.
We'll see if it shows.
I'll start with my what I have to say about it, and then hopefully it'll jog your guys' memory in terms of picks that you would have for this category.
Okay.
But I was at work today, and I was just showing one of my coworkers like a clip from a movie I really like called The Grand Budapest Hotel, and it was a clip of the main character Zero and his love interest Agatha, and it was just like a really sweet scene where they like kind of fall in love, and he's giving her this poem, and so then I was thinking like, what are some of our favorite like on-screen romance or on-screen couples? I'd say. Now it can be movies, it could be shows, and it could be video games as well. If there's like a couple on a video game that you guys really like.
Can I say a really horrible one?
Oh, like we can also go bad as well. Yeah.
Can I say that?
Sure.
Now?
Yeah.
Just because it's so salient to my mind right now.
Yeah.
Michael Scott and Jan Levinson.
From the Office.
Oh my god, bro. They make her.
Jan Levinson Gould.
No Gould though. She got
divorced.
She got
That's right.
divorced. That's right. Drop the Gould. Yeah, she's just a psycho.
Yeah.
Like she's so bad to him. And to be honest,
Snip, snap, snip, snap. Remember that?
yeah, I was just
like,
watching that.
She's talking about like he's like, how many vasectomies can one man take? He's
Yeah.
like, you know what? You wanted one, I got one, and you want a reverse, I got a reverse. And snip, snap, snip, snap.
Yeah. But I was just thinking about it. This is gonna be a general comment.
Sure.
He's such an asshole. Like I know you said like he cares,
Mm.
but like that doesn't redeem all
Sure.
the stuff he does and says.
He's a racist, like
Michael
ignorant
Scott.
idiot. Yeah.
Am I
Sorry.
good? Am I chill?
Yeah, just making sure.
Yeah, we were talking earlier, and Patrick was like, "Why does he?
But he's
why is he
not even-
likable for people?"
He's not even like racist in a malicious sense, but
Just,
yeah,
it's stupid.
There's still racism and stupid, but like
Yeah.
Oh, Michael?
Yeah.
Michael Scott, like he's just such a bigot, bro, in every sense of the word.
Yeah.
In every sense of the word. So why do people like? I'm saying on the show, like why does Pam feel for him eventually?
Maybe she's the
Why
same
does
way.
Dwight respect him?
I think ultimately, like I
to
said,
a fault.
like ultimately, even like, I just honestly think he just loves everybody there, and he like really, really cares about them. So I think
Yeah.
ultimately, like, even if he's not great at his, he's a good salesman too. Actually, there's a
He
whole
is.
arc about him being like a great salesman.
Yeah.
But I think in general, I think it's like people are annoyed by him, but at the end of the day, like they love him. He's lovable.
Yeah.
Like he's because he loves them, and he's not being malicious. He's not purposefully an asshole. He's just kind of stupid.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, like very early on, you see that like he doesn't understand
He doesn't. Yeah.
like
What he's
what
saying.
he's doing and what he's saying in a
Sure.
sense. And even like you get a glimpse to his childhood, like he didn't have friends.
Yeah.
He ate with the lunch lady or something.
Yeah.
He was on that childhood show.
that was a great one.
He was like, "Oh, I want to have 100 kids so that like I'll have 100 friends or
no one
something."
can leave me. Yeah.
And the puppet was just like,
this is stuck on the puppet's face. That was great.
In terms of shitty couples, not like shitty,
That,
but
like
one
a
that's...
rat.
it was like a rat looking thing. But before you go on, sorry, Jan, she would like. It's crazy. Like she'd sexually manipulate him, financially manipulate him.
Yeah, she quit her job at some point because or she got fired.
Got fired. Yeah.
And she would just like use all of his money and just like sleep on his bed all day.
He was so depressed and he was so lost. Like he was gonna run away. He was gonna get on a train and run away.
Oh yeah, there's a scene where like in his full suit, he just sits on a train car and he's like waiting for it to leave and it just doesn't leave.
Yeah, but he's a scumbag too because he was broken up with her, but she came back. She was like, "I miss you."
Got a boob
and she had
job.
boob job.
Yeah, and he was like, everyone was like, "Stay strong." Pam was like, "Stay strong." When she comes back, she's gonna want to pull you back, but like just say no.
Yeah,
And he's like, "Listen, I'm sorry." And then as soon as he looks at her and she like takes off her jacket,
I want to get back there.
and he's like,
yeah, he goes to Pam. He's like, "Your reason was good, but hers were bigger."
yeah.
Fucking scumbag.
And I remember in that episode, like she's like, "You want to feel them?" And like he just keeps like
Yeah, he just keeps. Yeah,
he just keeps holding them.
he goes, "I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet."
Yeah.
Respectable.
Oh, God.
In terms of romantic couples, one that immediately jumped to mind that's not like one of my favorites.
Sure.
Like it's not like necessarily a good example, but it just makes me laugh is I guess both movies, but specifically the original Top Gun.
Yeah.
With him and I forget her name. What's the actor's name?
I don't remember.
Some fan you are.
I know. But just him and the lady from the first one. That they're like back and forth, and like him meeting her at the bar, and then like that fucking class the next day, and she's the teacher or whatever, and it's that fucking thing between him and Goose of like, fuck, that wasn't the greatest first impression to make and everything.
And then take my breath away.
And then take my breath away, and they bang in like apparently the
Yeah.
bluest room I've ever seen.
Honestly, that's one of the best scenes in the movie. It's
Right?
That's amazing.
So good.
Yeah, that song is just one of my favorites of all time.
And that's so good. And even him and Jennifer Connelly in Maverick.
Yeah, they're good
I like
too.
their relationship together. I love the scene of like when they finally, first of all, when they hang out for the first time and he drops her off on the motorcycle and she leaves and it's like, all right, bye, whatever. It's fine. But the second time when he drops her off and she walks into her house and just leaves the front door wide open, it's like, let's go, Tommy Cruise. Like, let's do this.
Got it.
Got him. And then I love the scene too where like when they do finally hook up and she boots him out the like second floor of her house or whatever, and he like climbs down or whatever and bumps into the kid and whatever. Like that, Top Gun.
Correct me
Very
if I'm
good.
wrong, but I heard this thing that like for Tom Cruise movies, they purposely cast shorter people
Oh,
to
girl.
make
shorter-
him-
Oh, I see.
to make him look taller. Like,
I've heard
he's
that.
like, what?
I've
He's
heard
like-
that he's like 5'7" or 5'6".
He's like
or something.
5'7", and I heard that they purposely cast like the extras and like other
Interesting.
people to be shorter.
I've
so
heard
they
it- I've
can
heard it-
look-
makes sense.
I've heard he wears like lifts potentially during movies too,
And-
or they use like the angles. And
Yeah,
shit.
they also, I imagine, shoot a lot of it in a way that like, kind of
Yeah.
does some
Listen, Tom
trickery.
Cruise is a beast. But, like when I hear that fact, I'm like, how do you not feel like kind of emasculated? when-
I mean, I guess him rolling around on all of his
Billions of
Scrooge
dollars.
Millions and
McDuck
billions
piles
of
of
dollars.
I'm
money.
sure he's fine.
he's more than okay. That's
So
true.
one big one for me that came into my mind when I thought about this topic was Zero and Agatha. But
Agatha's Saoirse Ronan, right?
she's
God, I have
beautiful
such
in
a
that
crush
movie.
on her.
She's beautiful in that movie. You want to pull up? Can you pull up? Can you search up Saoirse Ronan, Grand Budapest, and just go to images and go to GIFs?
Matthew,
Isn't it the one with her and all the lights?
I love that.
God,
One. Such a
Matthew,
beautiful show.
yo,
correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't you a Taken man?
I am, which is why I would never leave or do anything.
Grand
But I'm
Budapest.
just saying. Listen, Varsha was texting me, speaking of Top Gun the other day. She
Yeah.
was at home and she's like, yeah, I'm watching Top Gun Maverick right now. And when Miles Teller and all them are on the beach playing fucking like football and whatever, it's
Oh, wait,
like
wait,
hot
wait,
as shit.
um,
And she's like, and then I kept rewinding and rewatching the scene. So
I ain't worried about it right now. And just go to GIFs. Yeah, I love this GIF of her in the movie. It's such a beautiful.
thank you,
shot.
Wes Anderson.
It's a beautiful GIF.
Oh, she's pretty.
Yeah, she's really pretty. So that movie's fantastic, and to me, their relationship, what I love about it so much is how innocent they both are. It's just very like pure and lovely, and I also think
It's very of the time too, because
Sure.
isn't Budapest set in like the 30s or the 20s or something?
something
think
like
it's
that.
before World War
I think
II,
it's. I
right?
think it's.
Yeah, like it's
Yeah.
older, so like it also fits that kind
No,
of.
or it's during the war, isn't it? During the
I think the
war?
war,
Maybe it's
there's
during.
war stuff that's going on during.
Yeah.
But it's just like it's just very simple of like they like each other a lot and they're just like everyone approves and it's just a beautiful like simple and they don't really go too much into the details of their relationship and how they met and stuff. And it's very, even though it's very brief, it's very elegant and beautiful. I love it.
Sorry to sidetrack here,
Sure.
but why do I feel like there's a double standard with girls being able to be like, oh, that guy's hot, but like if a guy goes like, oh, I think this girl's like hot, like like she's like attractive or whatever, then it's like the end of the world for like the girl. Is there a double standard? Like,
You're,
would you guys be okay
saying people are more harsh on guys when they're like, oh, she's cute, or vice versa.
that they're more harsh on guys? Like,
Oh,
if your
interesting.
girl went up to you and she was like, oh, like Brad Pitt, love him, and then
Varsha-
you were like Megan Fox, like she's like so hot.
Varsh and I aren't really like that. Like she'll tell me every once in a while, like, oh yeah, that actor's so hot or whatever. Or even that movie, her and I are gonna hopefully go see it at some point. That Anyone But You movie with Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney.
yeah.
Like we both basically said to each other, like, yeah, we'll go watch that movie so I can look at Sydney Sweeney for 2 hours. And you can look at Glenn Powell for 2 hours, kind of.
He's
thing.
an attractive man.
He's
I
a
will
good-looking
say.
dude.
He's more attractive than I think she's attractive.
I
When
haven't-
people
can I
do the
see a
fan
picture?
casts, he's in Top Gun Maverick 2. He's the asshole.
Oh, the
pilot
blonde
to Miles
dude. Yeah,
Teller,
okay,
yes.
I know.
Him, I mean, I'll just say it really quick. The fan cast, make him fucking Cyclops in the X-Men. Just
He would be
saying.
great, but I think
He would
Sydney
be good.
Sweeney
Or
is
make
more
him a Green Lantern in
You think she
James
is?
Gunn's
I think
DCU.
so.
Okay.
He's a good
It's
looking
not
guy.
far and away by any
No.
stretch, yeah.
Honestly, Miles Teller is great in Top Gun Maverick as well.
He's
He
a
looks
good-looking
good
boy,
looking.
I'll
The
tell you
mustache.
what, with the stash. That
But yeah,
body.
so that was one of them, and then the other one I wrote down was, what's his name? Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone in La La Land.
In La La Land, I was gonna say that, but they're divorced. They get divorced.
At the end of the movie, they end up splitting up, and like
that's why I didn't want to say it because
but to me, their
It's just
on-screen
the beauty
chemistry,
of it.
and the on-screen chemistry was just fantastic
It was
between
so
them.
good.
The banter felt really natural. They just like the way they would joke around with each other and how they meshed super well. So I think the way they compare to like the Grand Budapest couple of Zero and Agatha is that it's less brief, it's more intimate, and the movie's about their relationship in a sense. So it's like you see more of the everyday interactions between them and stuff like that. So I think it's beautiful in that sense. And even though it doesn't work out, it was beautiful. It's beautiful because it happened type thing.
Generally speaking, like as a movie, when we first sat down to watch it and someone said it was a musical, I immediately kind of just like...
Me too.
I kind of like hissed a little bit.
Bro,
like,
we started and we were both like, I think me, you, and Malcolm were like, oh,
we're just
fuck,
like, oh,
we don't want to do
boy.
another musical.
But the movie played, and honestly, it's one of my favorite movies.
Me too.
It's the
easily
chemistry.
a top 10 for me.
By the end of it, we
probably.
were all like, that is one of the best movies we've ever seen in our lives.
The chemistry between the two leads, like you said,
The
the
music was catchy.
The music was catchy, like the realism of sort of the back and forth of their sort of situation.
And their lives individually
Their
changing.
lives individually, yeah, exactly. Like it just made you care for them, and I was in for the ride.
And not to mention that visually it's stunning.
And part of me also thought like, are they gonna like? Can they make it work? Like throughout the whole movie,
Sure.
like, can they make this work?
For me, it wasn't. I remember watching it for the first time in the theater with my mom and just
Yeah.
being like so immediately, and just the same thing of like, I really don't fucking like musicals. And I always say it's like Nightmare Before Christmas, Phantom of the Opera, and that was basically it for me until like La La Land. And I just remember watching it for the first time in the theater and just being so immediately like in love with it. Of like, this is fucking awesome, and the music's like so good. And
Damien Chazelle's just a fucking
Damien Chazelle's so
beast.
good, and it was also because part of what got me in the theater in the first place was like, oh yeah, the guy who directed Whiplash. Like, I'll go see what he did next. Although I still haven't seen Babylon.
Me neither.
Apparently it's like 3 hours, and I just fucking it's so long. But like, I just remember seeing it, and it wasn't ever a thing of like, are they gonna make it work? But when they do the thing where it's like they split, and she goes off to pursue the acting thing, and you aren't really sure what happens to him. And then when they do the like 5 year later thing, I'm like,
that's
oh, that's
heartbreaking,
crazy.
dude.
And then when it's her at the house with the different guy and the kids, I was
Yeah.
like so
Dude,
devastated. But when they're walking around LA, her and her new husband, and they go past the club, and then he's like, oh, this place seems cool, whatever. And they walk in, and she walks in after him, and it cuts the fucking sign. And it's the sign she drew for
Sebs,
him.
yeah.
And it's Sebs with the music note. I'm like,
Yeah.
get the fuck out. And then that final thing where they're in the fucking club together,
And
and they
look-
do that whole like 5 minute scene of just like them together and like what could have been. Obviously,
Oh,
it's like
dude,
played up because they're
fucking
on like
heartbreaking.
they're on like sets and there's like background dancers,
Yeah.
so it's like obviously like kind of a dreamlike version of it. But then when it like all that happens and it's like I remember sitting there watching being like, oh my god, yes, she's gonna leave this fucking guy, which is such a shitty thought to have. But it's like she's gonna leave this fucking loser, I don't know, and like share custody with the kids or whatever, I guess, and she's gonna wind up with Ryan Gosling. And then it's just the fucking cut back to the club of like him done playing the thing, her, or when he stops playing and her sitting there, and then it's just that fucking.
That's there.
No wonder she won Best Actress that year. But it's that fucking look they have between him and just that no words, just a little. And he goes right back into the fucking music. And I don't remember if she gets up to leave or whatever it is. But it's just that knowing thing of like, it's not going to work. But in another world, it would have kind of thing. And it's just so
Chills,
good.
bro. Chills.
It's so good. And that's why, even though it doesn't work out, it is a thing of like one of the best
Incredible couple.
relationships.
Yeah.
A similar dynamic, I would say, is from A Marriage Story.
Oh,
Adam Driver,
dude.
and I
Fucking
think that was an
heartbreaking.
incredible movie too.
Great movie too. Yeah.
And is it crazy for me to say, or to like, I had the thought of like she was with her other man, right? But like I kept thinking like, it just, I feel like she doesn't think it's the same. Like I feel like she doesn't have the same energy with him. It just didn't feel right. I don't know.
Well, neither one of them. do, and I
Obviously,
feel
the
like
movie
that's
built-
kind of the whole movie of like just the
Yeah.
like miscommunication, the lack of communication, the miscommunication, the like saying the wrong thing when you like. When he has that whole scene where he fucking blows up on her or whatever.
I wish
Like,
you were
every day
dead.
I wake up,
Yeah.
wish you were dead, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like all this shit where it's like, things you say that you don't necessarily mean, but like,
I'm
they're
gonna
raw.
I'm gonna throw out one video game one because I love video games. Is Nate and
I
Elena.
knew you were going to say Nathan
Oh,
Elena.
okay.
Yeah, they just have a very like fun banter heavy relationship, and in the fourth game especially, they deal with a lot of like him pursuing this stuff that he's not supposed to be pursuing anymore, and he promised that he'd give up, and her being hurt that he broke that promise and keeping it from her and all this stuff, and them trying to like mend that. And there's a really beautiful scene where you're driving in the car. Remember that with her?
Mhm.
And like this like soft piano music's playing and you're driving through the field and it's kind of like you've both she flew out and like, you know, kind of caught you in the act of going treasure hunting and all this shit. And so it's like a really they go into their relationship a lot more in the fourth game, and it really flushes out their relationship more, because in the first game it's like they get to know each other, it's fun, it's like funny, whatever. In the second game, they like you find out that he's like with Chloe, or like kind of hanging out with her, and like Elena's not in the picture, and then they like run into each other again. So it's kind of like always a little bit passing and like cute, but then in the fourth game it's like really like profound, and I like it a lot.
And then they sit and play Crash Bandicoot together.
Yeah, I love that.
Be completely honest. Okay.
Mm.
Who's hotter, Elena or Chloe? Chloe. Without a
It's gotta be
doubt.
Chloe.
You know what it is?
Sorry, Elena.
Chloe for sure, but I think it's almost like
Chloe's like the black cat though to like
sure.
Yeah.
Elena's
she is.
Mary Jane.
It honestly
She is.
depends
Where
on
it's like she's the sort of like the more like fun but
the
like
good girl versus the kind of bad-
dangerous and like
yeah.
he really shouldn't be with Chloe.
Which
like
makes
he
it
should
more-
be with Elena, but
yeah.
it's the black cat Mary Jane thing of like every time Spider-Man's with black cat,
Felicia's
it's like
so-
you really shouldn't be doing this, dude. But also like it's really hot and fun,
Yeah.
but like you should be with MJ.
I think if they looked exactly the same character models, and you flipped it, and Elena was like the one that was kind of a badass and like he shouldn't have been, I think we would have felt the opposite.
Really?
If Chloe acted and was written as like a good, respectable, rational,
Sure.
like
To
you know
be
what I'm
quite
saying?
Honest, the tan, like I'm pretty attracted.
The dark, I think you're dark skin,
Dark
not
skin
dark skin,
Aussie
a dark
girl.
hair,
dark
fanciness.
features. I'm
Yeah.
more into the dark features. Yeah.
Australian.
Does anyone
Aussie
have
guys.
any
I was
other
gonna
couples?
throw
So
out Amy Santiago and Jake Peralta.
Mm.
I like them initially
Brooklyn
from-
Nine-Nine.
oh.
in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but that show just gets so corny and so repetitive. And
Really, I stopped watching
It-
after the first couple of seasons.
yeah,
to be honest.
it's like I like how they build up sort of how they're not together, but they have this chemistry, and then eventually it works out for them, kind of thing.
They end up getting married at the very end.
They get married.
Mm.
I don't even know what the very end is. I didn't even finish the show. They
I-
had
I-
like the sixth season was during COVID, and the first scene they're wearing masks. I was like, I'm out. Like I'm in it. Like, why are you showing this to
That
me right now?
definitely bugs me about with some shows when they like acknowledge COVID. I don't know. I guess it's like it depends. Like my mom, dragged my dad into watching one of the. I think it's like This Is Us or A Million Little Pieces, whatever the fuck it is. But it's one of those like more kind of not it's like soap opera,
Rom-com?
but it's more like sad and drama. Or like my dad always makes fun of it, where it's like every time there's a happy moment, somebody fucking gets a cancer diagnosis. But it's like in that it was like yeah, COVID happened, and it feels weird to me. Like I get that it happened, but it's like. I don't know.
There could be a way to do it, but like
I think there's a way
they
to
were
do
just
it. Like even
not-
when my parents were watching Shameless and like one of the last couple seasons like was around COVID and like that kind of dealt with it, but that also felt that to me it worked where I don't know, like not that I ever watched it, but like if I was watching fucking Succession about like all these like rich spoiled assholes.
have you heard of that
and
show?
then, like
You've never heard of Succession before?
it's apparently fantastic.
It's like
My
apparently one of
parents
the best
really
shows in the last like a decade or whatever.
But it's like if I was watching, or it's like if you were watching,
HBO.
but imagine you were watching
HBO.
Breaking Bad.
Sure.
And then there was like a season of Breaking Bad where like everybody's like wearing masks and they're like, yeah, this COVID thing. Like it doesn't make any sense in that. Even though that world is like reality in quotes, it just doesn't.
to me, it's
fit. That's
also
a whole other
to me, it's also like unless it's like a documentary or like or a biopic or whatever, it's like it doesn't make sense. It's supposed to be an escape from reality. It's supposed to be like a new
Yeah.
world and whatever.
And to me, it's definitely more egregious when it's shows that are like, or I guess it's annoying when it's shows that are like real in quotes, but at least it kind of makes sense. But yeah, to me, it's just like imagine if a fucking MCU movie was like everybody's like, yeah, COVID, huh? It's like, aren't you worried about the fucking planet blowing up? Like, don't you have
It doesn't
bigger fish to
proportion. Yeah.
fry? But anyways,
I'll throw out one
relationships.
I mean, I have one as well.
more. Yeah. Do you want to go first?
I was just gonna say it's very brief and it's not one of my best picks to be honest. But I think Jack Skellington and Sally,
Okay.
they're just like a cute little couple. I mean, you don't really get to see that much between them, but she's always very like she admires him a lot, and she like sees him kind of going down this bad path of trying to trying to do Christmas in Halloween Town, but he's like fucking it up and making things horrible and like ruining stuff for people who actually celebrate Christmas and stuff.
Yeah.
And she's like one of the only ones who's like, please stop, this is a bad idea, like this is not good for you type thing. So it was like a fun relationship. It was like it was sweet.
As a kid, I always liked the relationship between Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, okay.
It's that dynamic of she's like the royal, she's like the high class person, and he's like the lowly blacksmith. And I don't know, it always sort of it's
Charming.
that dynamic is always
Mm.
something I sort of gravitated towards in like shows and movies. And believe it or not, I feel like Egypt is a pretty sorry.
It doesn't have to be being closer, but
Yeah.
more just like pointed.
Pointed.
You know?
I feel like I know Egypt has sort of like a class based sort of setup there in a sense where it's like I was there a couple summers ago, and I don't know how this debate broke out, but I was talking with my cousins and we were headed to a resort. Doesn't matter where.
What's the exact location?
Let me put the longitude and latitude coordinates. No, so we were talking about okay, like who would you end up with? Like, would you be okay with like dating like a waiter, or like would you be okay with like getting with a waiter, marrying a waiter? Or, I don't know. I can't remember what exactly. I didn't say waiter exactly. Who did I say?
Garbage man.
I don't know. Just some occupations that are like not perceived to be as like prestigious.
Sure.
And they were like saying, "Oh, like no, you got to be with your level kind of thing. Like you have to have like the same sort of income. You have to have the
That's
same
insane.
sort of
That's insanity.
class level kind of thing.
Same income. What are the
Like-
odds they're
like
gonna have the same income?
Similar. Like they were saying, like same
Same
ballpark.
bracket?
Like if you,
Mm.
like if you're here and like who you're marrying is like here, it's like they're not about it. And one of their arguments was like, oh, in Egypt as well, there's like a really big difference in education, where it's like if you're of like having like one of the non-prestigious jobs, I guess, it's likely the case that you're educated differently. They were going off about how like they have like different manners when eating, and it just like
They're kind of
the
talking about
lives
they're
wouldn't
talking
mesh.
about,
They would say.
they're
They were
talking about
saying.
like people who are like quote unquote uncivilized in their opinion. Or whatever.
Exactly. They were saying like
Mm.
people who are like uncivilized, and it's like a different sort of like
Sure.
vibe, I guess.
Yeah.
And that kind of shocked me, to be honest with you. I never really
I think that
thought about that.
I think
in
that
Egypt.
I think that in country and in many other countries that are not like Western countries, it's like
Yeah.
this. It's like very was it stratified?
But
is the
we
word?
but we take it for granted because they're
Sure.
like education is really universal, and there's
Mm.
like we are an educated country. And I just don't I don't want to fault them right away without like understanding, I guess,
how they grew up and
and like sort of that difference that
It's just
they're
truly-
claiming is there. You know
it's
what
just
I'm
really
saying?
what they believe. It's not like them trying to be dicks about. They're just like that's how they believe it to be the case. But
Yeah.
But also dumb. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, fiction couples. There's so many. I feel like a quick one to just rattle off that like doesn't require too much explanation is Han and Leia in the original Star Wars trilogy.
oh yeah,
Always a big fan. The fucking
Overrated.
like
maybe a
the
little, maybe a
Empire
little bit.
moment of just him going into the fucking carbonite and the just I love you. I know, like fucking love that. The Family Guy parody of that still
So
always
good.
makes me laugh. With the I love when Lois, I love you, and Peter, fuck off. So good. But Han and Leia is a big one. Other movie and game ones though, I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I'm trying to think as
TV-wise.
well.
Games is weird because I don't think of that many games
Not many games have a focused relationship.
having. I guess one that comes to mind, and this is more of like a dark horse kind of pick, but there's this smaller indie kind of game called Haven from the past few years, which is made by the same studio that did this game called Fury, which is Fury's fucking badass. Like it's a boss rush game, and it's all neon colors and like synthwave shit. And Haven's a similar aesthetic, but it's less combat focused, and it's just basically like this couple crashes on this like alien planet because they're like running away together or whatever, and then it's just like you playing as the two of them trying to like survive on this planet, whatever. I like their relationship a lot in that game because it is just kind of like you playing as both of them and sort of like build this relationship, up as you go,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
I have one that might be one of my favorites. It's in Arrival. So in Arrival, there's what's her name? What's the actress's name?
I can't remember.
Shit, why am I drawing a blank?
Amy Adams.
There we go.
So Amy Adams in the movie, she meets this guy because like the aliens land and she's a linguistics professor, and the government brings her in to like translate the language, right?
Mhm.
And she's matched up with this physicist played by Jeremy Renner, who's Hawkeye in the Avengers movies, and he is like breaking down the science of it and whatever. So they work together on this project. Spoiler alert for the movie. Please watch Arrival. It's amazing. But basically what you end up learning is that once you learn the alien language, it allows you to perceive time differently.
That always screwed me up, bro.
It-
I can't wrap my head
It's
around
so
it.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's like she began to perceive time as like she can see everything all at once. She can see the future, the past, the present all together, and like it's like a circular thing.
Yeah.
And she sees into the future. And what's brilliant is that you see in the beginning of the movie this child that she has, and that the child dies from cancer and whatever. and you just kind of you assume that it happened chronologically and that she got matched up with this alien thing after her child died. But once you realize that that was like a kind of foreshadowing of her perceiving time differently, and what you realize is that this physicist that she meets later in the movie, she ends up marrying him and having a child with him after all the alien stuff is resolved and figured out. And basically she knew that she's going to be with him and that they're going to have a child and the child's going to die. And she ends up making that decision to be with him anyway, even though she sees that future and that horrible demise of her kid. Yeah. And it's so sad because like you see in the future, like the daughter being like, oh, like where's daddy or whatever. And like he left, they got divorced and he left because he couldn't handle the fact that she never told him that I know our daughter's going to die. Like, why would you allow us to have a daughter that's just going to die when she's like a kid? It's horrible. So like, but their dynamic is so sweet and like they work together and they like help each other and they emotionally support each other through this insane experience of like aliens landing and them trying to process that and stuff. So I think that's like one of my favorite couples for sure.
Two more that sprung to mind for me. One, we mentioned Spider-Man earlier, and even though I don't like these movies, but Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone
they
again
have chemistry.
in Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, like their Peter and Gwen dynamic is so fucking good. And it's another thing where it's just like it kind of checks a lot of boxes where it's like sweet when it wants to be, or like kind of more funny and cute when it wants to be and charming. But then there's also like,
aren't those movies good?
No,
not really.
The first one's fine.
They had really, I think they're people appreciate them now for like how they portrayed Spider-Man as like an action type thing. Like had really cool action scenes, and some of the relationships like were portrayed really well. But I think in general people are just like, the writing was kind of whatever, and like they're not great.
The
overall.
first one with Lizard I think is fine enough. It's just the second one suffers from Spider-Man 3 syndrome of like,
that's my favorite Spider-Man.
Let's put everything in the kitchen sink in this one. It was also just because Sony was trying to rush like
everything in the kitchen sink.
What if we do a Sinister Six
Venom,
thing?
Sandman, and Harry.
Electro and Harry.
No. I'm talking about Spider-Man 3, Tobey Maguire. Venom, Sandman, and Harry.
It should have just been like Sandman and Harry.
Oh. One too many. They did one too many?
I think so. It just makes Spider-Man 3 feel like it's got to... Don't get me wrong. I have a soft spot for Spider-Man 3, but it just makes it feel like kind of more like messy than it needs to be. And Amazing Spider-Man 2 is way worse of that of like...
Electro.
You get Electro, so it's like, okay, fine.
You get Harry.
You kind of get Rhino, but not really because he's not in the suit for the first
so
5
weird.
seconds. And then they tease you with the trailers of like, he's going to fight Rhino, and then it's literally just the final 30 seconds. He goes to fight Rhino, and it fucking cuts to black, so it's like... Thanks for edging everybody in the audience there. But it's like, so you kind of have Rhino, but not really. You've got Electro. And then it was like, we're going to introduce Harry and also give him an entire Green Goblin
I didn't like Harry in that movie.
In the movie. And then it was even just the thing, too, when it's, I don't remember if it's the post-credit or just like at the end of the movie when Harry's like in jail and that like mysterious guy in the fucking fedora's like walking down the hallway leading up to his cell. And you see like the vulture wings behind him. And then the Dr. Octopus arms behind him. And like one other thing. It's like, why are you like trying to shoehorn in all this shit? Amazing Spider-Man 2 has problems, but Emma Stone,
you know who else
and
had...
Andrew Garfield work together, and it's great.
You know what other movie had a lot of villains that you didn't say that about? No Way Home.
No Way Home, yeah.
See, here's the thing with No Way Home, though. No Way Home is playing with No Way Home is basically saying like, here's all this shit that you already know and that's already been established. It's like a fucking Avengers movie where it's like, here's all this stuff you already know, you already have attachments to, you understand everything that's in play here. You know all the puzzle pieces. Here's all of it together.
It's not trying to introduce it for the first time.
It's not trying to be like, here's the Green Goblin for the first time, and Sandman, and the Lizard, and Electro. It's like, no, you know who all these characters are because you have the history with them.
That's right.
Whereas in like Amazing Spider-Man 2, it's just like, hey, here's a Harry you've never met. Even in Spider-Man 3, it works because it's like you had Harry in the first movie. You had Harry in the second movie where he finds out Peter's Spider-Man and he still blames Spider-Man for his dad's death. So you get to then the third one of like, now he's a fucking bad guy. Like, that works.
His Green Goblin's dope.
The new Goblin thing?
Yeah, his Green Goblin's.
I wish he had a better design.
Yeah, the suit seemed very forgettable.
The suit was always just
basic.
like, it was just neck down. It was like the black whatever body
he had
suit.
the visor and
then
like the face
green.
covering.
Yeah, it was like a ski mask thing with.
But
I just wish they gave him a cooler look.
But Willem Dafoe's was so memorable that like that like badass like big smile.
People still to this
A
day
little-
aren't crazy about his look because
Oh.
people have kind of always made the joke where it's like he's wearing a Power Ranger suit or something.
It's definitely a little cheesy, but to me, it's just more memorable to me.
I just like that Green Goblin's one of those characters that's hard to do
sure.
the look in live action, and I feel like that's a good way because again, Amazing Spider-Man 2, where it's just like I forget that actor's name, but it's like here he is, but he's like fine the whole movie, and then his Green Goblin look is again some like just generic looking like
And his
armor
face is
suit
all
thing,
fucked up.
and it's like his hair is messed up and his
Yeah.
skin's pale, and it's like
Can you search up the Spider-Man 3 one?
oh, the new Goblin.
New Goblin. Yeah,
I just
Spider-Man
think
3.
I think Matty was saying it was like just mainly black and it had like
he had like a lightsaber looking thing.
I like
too.
the sword. I like the 3 blades popping out of the side. All that stuff I'm cool with. I like his kind of more like narrow
It seems
surfboard
like a
glider.
basic like spy looking. I don't know. It's all right.
The like his tool set and what he uses is fine. The mask is like cool, but it's like
Can you search up Willem Dafoe's Goblin?
Willem Dafoe Green Goblin.
Yeah,
Whereas
to
like
me
his
that's
Green
cool.
Goblin, I
That's
like
cool.
the look of.
And what about the third? And what about the Amazing Spider-Man one? Let's look at the one more.
I don't even remember that one.
I think they just fucked up his like he has like he had like weird shit on his face.
Yeah, it's just like his hair's
Ugh.
messed up
That was
and,
not- that was not
it's but it's
good.
just a dude. I mean, the glider's kind of cool, but I'm like it's just a fucking dude in like green laser tag armor. Like it's not an interesting design, and that's what I'm saying. We're on the right where it's like that's him the whole movie, and it's like and now his hair is messed up and his fucking skin's pale. I'm like, all right, I guess that's
he was
a
he
version
was
of the
handled
Green
very
Goblin.
poorly in that.
He
movie.
was. Yeah.
That was just lame as shit.
Anyways,
The other one I was going to toss out game-wise, and I feel like this could be applied to a lot of games, but I will specifically give a tip of the cap to Hades because I love that game because it's like a roguelite and a romance game or a dating sim, like all wrapped up into one. A lot of the relationships you can make as Zagreus in Hades are like memorable to stick out to me, and this is kind of just a broader point I guess I'm making about video games that let you pursue like romancing options with different characters, because there are some games like that I think of or that come to mind of like the relationships are more special than they would have been in like a movie or show or whatever, and this is just the power of games because it's like I actively pursued that, like whether it's a Telltale game or I'm sure some Quantic
Detroit
Dream
Become
shit,
Human.
like Detroit, yeah. Or who farted?
I did not.
Because it smells like shit in here right now.
Oops.
And that's all I have to say about this topic.
Perfect.
All right, fellas, let's close out the first episode of the new year here.
Yeah. No,
What?
just
Oh,
Patrick.
Patrick dead after he gassed himself out. This is slightly more serious in nature, I guess.
Do that the whole time. The rest of the episode.
Slightly more serious in nature, I guess. We'll see, what we think of it. It actually, I thought of it today when I was talking with my dad doing that bonus episode, because he sort of mentioned it, and then it just stuck out to me. And we've also mentioned immortality on the show. This is maybe in that vein. The idea of like your own personal legacy.
Oh.
And what you want your legacy to be. And because I was thinking about that, because like I talked to my dad and I was just kind of like, like what's new, what's interesting, new year, blah, blah, blah. And I was talking where it's like, yeah, you're like planning on retiring. He plans on like the start of the summer next year, so like 2025 and whatever. And he was saying, he's like, because I was also asking because his birthday's tomorrow. So I was like, at the time recording, so I was like, I was like making fun of him. I'm like, yeah, what's it like being old and whatever. And he
You're
was
such
saying,
a jerk, son.
he was saying when it's like, he was like, when you start to get older, and he was basically saying, he's like, your mom and I, to use hockey terms, are in like the third period of our lives kind of thing. But he was saying, he's like, as you get older, what's a comforting thought is looking back at your life and not having many regrets, and also knowing that you spent the time well. And like, you'll have to listen to the episode. Hopefully you did last week. But like he kind of explained it as like, raising you guys and like having a good stable home, or like, having a fulfilling career, and like, knowing that like, he deals with a lot of like pain in the ass kids. But like he was reading to my mom and Michael and I the other day, like a Christmas card one of his students had like given him, that basically just saying like, I'd like to go into teaching someday. And if I do that, like I want to be a teacher like you kind of thing. And so him talking about like, knowing that like, for every pain in the ass or shit kid that he wants to like strangle, there's also like another kid that, he had some sort of impact in their life. And also just because my dad's very like goofy and silly and likes making people laugh. like at work and just generally, like he also thinks about, you know, that being a thing he's proud of like knowing that he made, you know, his school more fun to work at and like, you know, made people laugh and, you know, all that kind of shit. So it just got me thinking about this idea of your legacy, and what kind of legacy you want to leave behind. I've got, I guess, two versions or like answers to that question, but I can kick it to you guys if you want to start.
Well, you want to start, Patrick? Should I go? I feel like on a certain level, I have like a similar thing that you're talking about with your dad of like wanting to have some sort of like positive impact on students in my career. I feel like generally I want to be remembered as being like a caring or kind person, or also someone who's like, I don't know, who's like enthusiastic and like was like fun to be around type thing. Like I don't, you know, I think the worst thing is to be someone who's kind of like no one really remembers, or no one, like I want to have like a fun, like I want to have a good energy, and I also want people to like feel like I really did help them or help their confidence or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have very specific things, but I think in general, like I just think I want people to be like, oh, he was like a loving person, and he was someone who like had like, you know, a kind of enthusiasm for life type thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't I don't really know.
It's a big question.
I don't really know how to answer this question, just because I don't know. I'm in a place right now where I sort of feel lost.
You don't necessarily have everything.
I don't have everything figured out.
But even people who do have it figured out, it's like things change. So
things change.
Hard to,
yeah, but especially where I'm at right now, like I don't know where I'm headed, kind of thing. So,
well, then just then like ask the career aspect of it. Like, what kind of legacy do you want to have in terms of like what I'm saying in terms of how you want people to remember who you were and what kind of person you were, or you know, or it could be like a kids thing. Like you want your legacy to be like, you know, raising kids in a way that you think that is going to make them like great people, and like, I don't know, like whatever. Or but I think it'll be interesting to hear like what you think, what you want people to remember you as.
How about you answer first, Matthew, while I think about that?
For me, I have two sort of branches of this. The one that I think is more unique to me, not broadly speaking, but compared to you guys, is the more like career artistic side of things.
Oh, like content you've created?
Sure, where it's like, because you guys aren't in fields where it's like, I could be famous someday and like, you know, remembered for like this, you know, legacy and body of work and whatever, where it's like, that is not obviously a guarantee for me, but it's more kind of in the wheelhouse, and it is something I think about. I've always kind of had the belief that like, there's a part of me that thinks in every artist, there's just the slightest bit of narcissism.
You gotta have delusion at some point. You know?
Wants to have that legacy, like they want to basically have something left behind that they're remembered for, so that they kind of live on in that sense forever, even if they don't actively like say it. I've just always had that belief about artists where it's like, sure, you want to make your movie or make your music, but there's always a part of me that looks at it, it's like, but there's got to be like a 5% part of you somewhere in your head that's like, and it would be really cool if like this lived on forever kind of thing, and like, you know, this is what I was remembered for. And I don't say that in a negative way, because I'm the exact same way, which is why I think about it. To me, it's not so much a thing of like, obviously, if I became like super famous and it was like 50 years from now in some fucking film school when they're like, yeah, and what are some of the greatest directors of all time? And people are like, well, Scorsese, Coppola, Urso, fucking Greta Gerwig, Svarta. Like, that would be great, obviously. But it's not necessarily the goal. I've always looked at it more in a sense of like, if I was ever at the level of like a Scorsese, awesome, great, not gonna complain about it, but I would be content with like a Kevin Smith level kind of thing, which I always kind of use him as the reference point of like, Kevin Smith is popular and famous and a celebrity and all that, but like, he's not necessarily like
a household name,
but it's like the people that like him though love him. And I kind of think about it like that. I guess I also tie it more to like comic books specifically, where it's like, you know, Alan Moore's not the most famous name out there, but it's like, he will, and Alan Moore's, you know, old now. Like he's got to be in his 70s or 80s or something. Like he's getting out there. But it's like Alan Moore for the rest of his life. Some people will point to like, oh, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Most comic nerds will point to like he did Batman Killing Joke. But it's like he will, for the rest of time, as long as comic books are a medium, be remembered as like, that's the fucking guy that wrote Watchmen. Which is like, to comic people, the fucking holy grail, like graphic novel kind of thing. So it's like, I look at it more like that way, where it's in a professional career setting. Yeah, it would be cool to be like, you know, famous and blah, 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 and whatever. But it's like, I would take the...
You want your niche.
I would take the smaller level of fame, but the more dedication, I guess.
As opposed to like super widely known, but like generally people are apathetic to.
Like I want like, again, comic books, for example. If I could spend the rest of my life writing comic books, awesome. And if I had like a following and a fan base and blah blah, whatever. But it's like, if I only had one book that broke through and was this like mainstream hit, considered a classic, great thing, whatever, everybody loved it, that to me would be enough. I don't need to be
like hits
Scorsese,
after hits
like hit after hit after hit. Like I would take my kind of like, not like to say like a one-hit wonder, but just like have a kind of catalog of and a body of work that is good and stands up for itself kind of thing. But maybe one of them is like, you know, special and a big thing. And again, I just think of it of people I'm a fan of, where it's like, again, a name like Robert Kirkman, for example, will be remembered for the rest of time as Walking Dead and Invincible. And he's done a ton of other comics. I love Firepower. I haven't started reading Outcast yet. There's one other book of his that I like, Oblivion Song. Like, he's done all this cool shit that's good and awesome. And like, you know, to comic nerds, it's like, yeah, he's done all these really cool comics. But it's like, he will always be
Walking Dead
and Invincible. Like, those will always be his things. And so I kind of look at it that way in the professional branch of my answer to this question of like, that is a legacy I hope to have. Even if I don't get the one big hit, it would just be nice to like, when I'm gone, have people who read comics or watch movies, whatever I end up doing, or both, whatever the fuck, just hopefully, even if it's a handful of people, like, you know, in the low thousands or whatever, but just to have that like, oh yeah, like I read this one book that some guy from like 20 years ago, Matthew Harris, did or whatever, and it's like, to me, it's a special comic, even if it's not like some widely known thing. So in terms of career, making art, all that is the one aspect of my legacy I hope to have. The other one, which I think is more relatable to everyone, is the more interpersonal legacy. I hope that I am remembered by friends and family and like, you know, kids, maybe grandkids and all that shit, and kind of talked about in a way that is this kind of positive thing of like, oh yeah, Matt was an all right dude and whatever and blah, blah, blah. And like, you know, even my dad talks about it sometimes with his mom, my grandma, where he talks about how like my dad's side of the family talks about my grandma now that she's gone, like she's fucking royalty. Like there's nothing but positive things people say about her. Like everybody loved her kind of thing. And it's like, that to me is a very powerful thing to have. And even like other people where it's like, you know, great grandparents I never met, or like stuff like that like my parents will talk about, that they kind of like live on through my parents and me to some extent. And I think about like my grandparents, and my parents for sure like will have that kind of legacy within me. And, you know, again, hopefully if I have like grandkids and all that shit, or kids, I mean, and yeah, I don't know, I guess it is just like, that's a less permanent legacy, because it's like, I know my parents, I know my grandparents, I knew as a kid a couple of my grandparents, and like I've heard kind of some stuff maybe about the other ones, but it's like after that, great grandparents, I don't fucking know anything about any of those people. So it's like, it's a less permanent legacy, I guess, but it's one that it's its own different kind of strength, or like it's a stronger legacy in quotes, that like it would be nice to have. And I feel like, and I'm sure you guys have had this too, but there's moments of it, like glimpses that I can see, which is also nice because, you know, the idea of having a legacy is you're fucking dead. So it's like, you can't really sit in it and enjoy it. But it's like every now and then, not that it happens super often, but like if I bump into somebody I haven't seen in like a long time, or like even if I'm talking to somebody who like if me and that person are friends with someone that I haven't seen for a long time, and like, you know, the friend will say to me like, oh, hey, like, you know, I was talking with so-and-so who you haven't seen in 100 years, and we kind of mentioned you or whatever, and they were asking like how you were doing, or saying like, you know, oh yeah, I remember Matt, he was a good dude or whatever. Like even those little micro examples of, I guess, what I'm talking about resonate with me, and that's the hope I kind of have. I apologize, I'm rambling on here. I'll pass it to you guys in a second, but just the last example, one that always stuck out to me is like one of the nicest compliments I ever got, and again, what I hope lives on in other people's minds to some respect, is grade 7. And we'll get into elementary school and high school as their own topics one day. But the first day of grade 7, I won't say her name, but my teacher at our school, she...
Do we have the same teacher?
7, no, because 7 was that year where it was like me, David, Dewey, and a couple other guys were like the split. So we were like 7, 8.
The same teacher that I had in grade 8.
But then grade 8, she took all of us. But it was the first day of grade 7, did not know her at all, and she ended up becoming like one of my all-time favorite teachers. But like I didn't fucking know this lady from Adam the first day of grade 7, and she was like giving everybody like, I don't know, notebooks or, you know, name tags to put on their desk, whatever the fuck it was. But she was like putting all this stuff out, and when I got up to her, she was like, "Oh, you're Matt Ursa, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Oh," and I won't say the other teacher's name, but your grade 6 teacher basically was telling me about you. And I was like, "Oh fuck!" I was like, "That is that a good thing or a bad thing?" And she said to me, she's like, "You want to know what your previous teacher said about you?" And I was like, "Sure, yeah, whatever." And she's like, she told me that if she ever had a son, she would want him to be like you. And that just was such a nice thing. It's probably one of the greatest compliments I've ever gotten. And that to me is like kind of what I'm talking about, of like dumbass 6th grade little me, not saying it still does, but in that moment lived on in my 6th grade teacher's head enough to her to like tell my 7th grade teacher that, and then have it, you know, get back to me. So there's a certain just fulfillment in that, and maybe it's a little narcissistic and egotistical, I guess, but there's a certain like, you know, it's not so much that I don't know.
No, I think it's sweet. I think it's important to have shit like that where you can look back at that and be like, you know, I'm like you, like I like who I am, and I like what I'm doing, and I want to like, obviously there's never perfection, and I always want to like get better at certain things or be better overall, but like you're like kind of on the right path, and you've had good, like, you know, yeah, it's like I like that.
It's reassuring in a sense when there are moments of like, you know, maybe am I like screwing this up, or am I a bit of a schmuck here, and then to have that sort of validation is good. But that's also, again, me talking about this idea of like being around for it, whereas again the entire point of legacy is you're not around for it. And I guess I'm sure to people who are kind of like older looking back on their life, you do get to see your legacy in some respects while you're still around.
When like you're you know, in your 80s or whatever.
Yeah, like, because even, you know, again, somebody like Alan Moore is still alive, knows the fucking impact he's had, and knows,
people probably tell him all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I'm sure he knows, I'm the guy that fucking wrote Watchmen and Killing Joke kind of thing. So it's like, and a bunch of other stuff. So it's like, you do get to, I guess it's like, that would be part of it too, is maybe getting to sort of revel in the legacy a bit while I'm still here.
Sure.
But to me, it just goes back to what my dad was saying today about this idea of like looking back and just knowing that, like, you know, it was time well spent on this rock. And not to divert it totally into this tangent, but it's like, as somebody who is an atheist and is of the belief that it's like the lights were off, suddenly you were awake and conscious and alive, you're lucky if you get 80 years and the lights go off again, and that's it. So it's like, from that angle too, I look at it of like, it's precious, and trying to make the most out of it, and trying to leave a positive impact in people's lives, and hopefully in their memories, and living on in that. And again, whether it's the more career thing or just interpersonal, you know, hopefully I get my 80 years on this rock. Hopefully in that time, I did enough or was enough to like leave something behind, you know, however lasting it is, who knows, however widespread it is, whether it's just my friends and family or it's fucking, you know, a million people who are like, that guy's writing comic, whatever he did was fucking awesome. Like whatever it is, just to have something is, I think, something I am hoping for.
Well, before I want to hear what Patrick has to say, I just want to tack on one thing that I've been, as you were talking, I was like, added on something that is like an all-encompassing thing for me, where I feel like when it comes to my personal career and then my like relationships in my life and my personal life, I feel like ultimately what I feel like I want my legacy to be is like a good communicator, like someone who was like a generous communicator and someone who would like give people like I would really listen to people and give people the opportunity to talk and like have, you know, my point be made clear. And then also just, I don't know, I just want to be generous and I want people to feel like, you know, he always gave me the time of day and he would always want to listen and he'd always want to have like things to say and I would always appreciate what he had to say. So I think like when it comes to like teaching, for example, it's having an impact through my teaching and through my words. And then in my personal relationships, it's the same thing. So I feel like if I had to just tack on that overall logo, it would just be like being the best communicator I can be. And then people thinking, you know, I liked hearing him talk and I liked having conversations with him and like, you know, it was impactful in a way.
Yeah. I guess I'll break up what I'll say in the same two manners that you guys did. So career-wise, like I said, I don't have everything set. So it really depends on where I end up. But as you guys know, sort of the goal is getting into clinical psychology, becoming a clinical psychologist. And it's not fame, like what you said, Matthew, but part of the job is being a scholar and being a researcher. And I've thought about like, what impact can I have on the scientific community in my field, psychology, and I'm going to be hopefully specializing in neuroscience in whatever lab I end up next year. Fingers crossed. So I thought about this actually recently where it's like part of me wants to be a serious scholar and wants to help advance sort of our knowledge in certain domains of psychology and illness if I end up in a certain lab like that. But on a more, I guess, attainable level, because it's really hard to be a serious scholar and it's hard to produce meaningful work. I've been in roles now in the past year where I have engaged in one-on-one meaningful connections with people, and I've been exposed to a lot of things that I don't like. Some things like I can't even believe like that they're real. Like people are saying to me like this absolute anguish and torment that you couldn't even imagine. Like I haven't really, I guess, reflected on it in a serious sense up until now. Like I'm just kind of shaken up with what I've heard. And I don't know, you guys can tell me, like I feel like I haven't really been affected by the role I've been in. But yeah, you guys can tell me. I feel like I've handled it pretty well. But yeah, on a more attainable level, like being a clinical psychologist, being able to help people navigate this, what's the word I'm looking for? Being able to help people navigate sort of the hardships and the unfortunate circumstances that people find themselves in.
Well, it's different, I imagine, because it's like, not that you're necessarily the same ballpark, but it's like if somebody going into like a more scientific field, for example, isn't necessarily getting into it for like the fucking glitz and glamour, I imagine, like, you know, an artist might. But it's like, maybe it's not a direct comparison, but applying it more, I guess, to what you're saying, it's like you might not wind up being the fucking, you know, Madame Curie or whatever of what you're trying to do, who is like, for all time, yep, that's the person. Just like, you know, whatever person or team of people ever figures out a cure for cancer, it's like, boom, history book. But it's like, but you might wind up being, you know, in a textbook for all time of like,
could be that.
Here's somebody who did this thing, blah, 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 blah. That one thing, it's like Patrick Rahim, boom, for the rest of the time. And that's like what I'm saying about where it's like, I don't need to necessarily be like Matt Arso, director of all time. But like, I would take a, you know, oh, here's like one really good movie or one really good comic or whatever this guy did that like people in the know would point to, but that even people outside of it like might have heard of or could be pointed to, like, oh, here's this thing that's really good that this one guy did, kind of thing.
What I was gonna say, when you were talking about how you could be, how your legacy could kind of be, I don't know how it would come to fruition, I guess. What I was thinking is like having some respect within your own industry as well, in terms of like people looking at you and being like, oh, generally the psychology, whether it's the department you're working in, or if it's like the world of psychology research in general, like has respect for you, and you've put out work that's like, even if it's not like, you know, a huge theory that everyone follows now, it's like people in your own field like respect you. And it could be the same thing for you of like, you know, even if you didn't have something that blew up like crazy, for example, like you're making good shit and people like in your field are recognizing you for being like talented and whatever.
What's important to me is that it's meaningful.
Sure.
That like it doesn't have to be like
popular necessarily,
groundbreaking, crazy thing, but like I'm doing my part to advance the collective knowledge, and in that way, hopefully, someone else can take a next step. And
I think that's how I think about my shit too. Of like, I'm not, as a teacher, obviously, you're not doing. There's no aspect of it of like, oh, you're gonna blow up as a part of it. Like, you're not gonna get famous or popular or whatever. It's like, you know, there's like small victories, and there's like you're doing these little things, and you're trying to inspire people, and like you said, like you're trying to help them so that they can go on and do great things. So it's like you're trying to put this energy into these kids and be like, you know, it's meaningful and impactful, and you know you're helping people's lives.
Yes.
But it's not like recognized worldwide as like, people respect teachers generally, but it's not like, oh, this specific teacher did a really good job. It's like, yeah, within your own field, like within your own like school or school board, you might be recognized, for example, but like worldwide, it's like it's kind of an anonymous, thankless job.
Yeah.
Like it's just kind of teachers in general.
Well, and it's also too, I think what applies to all three of us is also this idea of like touching people's lives. And again, interpersonally, I think that's what I was saying before about like doing that. But like even career wise, where it's like, you know, I still know and think about the like 5 to maybe 7 or 8 teachers throughout all of my education that I ever had that like I still think fondly of and will never forget them, whatever, and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, it's that kind of thing. And for yours, it might be more, whether it's like literally kind of talking with people like you're doing now and like hopefully leaving an impact that way, or if it is more kind of what you're saying of just being like, you know, advancing things kind of thing. And then in my neck of the woods, it's more like, you know, being able to make something that, again, isn't necessarily the fame thing, but it is more a thing of like, it really resonates with somebody or whatever kind of thing. Because, you know, either, regardless of what it is, it's just like, I guess, trying to make an impact on people. I mean, I guess that's what a legacy really is.
It's an impact.
It's how you impact people, you know, around it. Not directly sometimes, because even if you were remembered, if your legacy was a bad thing, of like if you fucking killed somebody, it's like, well, you didn't really do anything to anybody else. It's just like you're known for that. Whereas it's more like, I guess, having a positive impact, having a positive legacy because of the impact or in addition to the impact, I guess.
Yeah. And the last thing, sorry.
No, you can go ahead.
Yeah, the last thing I was going to say was, so if that was my sort of career thing. And again, that's contingent on sort of that working out. I mean, we'll see where I am in a year or so. But on the idea of meaning and doing something meaningful, my interpersonal answer is slightly different in that I hope, and I'm not really good with this all the time with people I interact with.
Oh, yeah.
But the idea that this person was genuine. And sometimes I meet people and I talk with them and they're like so overboard, or they're so extra, or it's like it feels superficial, and I don't want to be remembered in that way. Like I want to be remembered as the guy who's like, he was always like, he was genuine, like he was straight up, and he was like, he was being him. You know what I mean? Whether it was good or bad, like I don't know how people are perceiving me when I'm gone, but like he was him, and he was genuine, and he was trying to be
all good too. Like in my head, my hope is that it is a thing of like, you know, it's like family or friends of mine sitting around a dinner table, or, you know, at my fucking funeral or some shit, being like, you know, yeah, Matt could be a stubborn pain in the ass sometimes, but like at least he stood by his guns and like kind of thing. Like it doesn't even have to necessarily be all 100%. I don't want it to be bad, I'm saying, but like it doesn't have to be like 100% ass kissing of like,
no, that's
look how great Matt was, but 100%. More to what you're saying of just like that's who they were kind of thing, and like that.
But
They were
speaking, but
true to
speaking to
themselves
that,
kind of
but
thing.
speaking to that point, I currently like view you that way in terms
Well,
of
that's
like
good. I'm glad.
like I feel like I've always viewed you as, for better or for worse, like you're gonna just be like super blunt and straightforward. And sometimes I'm like, why? I almost like in the moment wish like, oh, why doesn't he just like match my superficial bullshit and just be like silly or whatever? But sometimes you're just like, you call it out, and I'm like, that's a fair question, or that's a fair point. Or he's not trying to put on something that I'm putting on. He's not trying to match this, like he's not trying to throw on a mask and like have a good, like necessarily like be goofy in this moment. It's his natural personality to just be like very straightforward about it, or and not necessarily always, like sometimes we'll goof around and shit, obviously, but like I think in general sometimes it throws, I could see when you're talking to other people, it might throw them off because they're used to other people just like playing along with their superficial level conversation of like pretending to be fake excited, or you know what I'm saying, like people talking to each other about their lives, and then like they're not being like, they're just kind of being overboard with it, like you're saying. It's like a little bit it's a little bit artificial.
That's a good word. There we go.
So I think like I've never found you to be that way, and you never like try to fake being a certain way around
I
people.
try not to. I really try not to.
Yeah, so
I don't know, but I have to admit sometimes when I'm with people who I'm not really familiar with.
But that's normal.
It's normal though. I know.
But like what
it's
Matty
like
was
the
saying,
social norm. Like you have to like
on a
sort of
certain
be
level,
that way,
on some level. But then like even what Matty was saying in terms of like the people who are closest to you, your family and your friends and your loved ones and stuff. At the end of the day, I think if you continue being who you are, then like they'll definitely remember you as someone who wasn't trying to sugarcoat things to make people necessarily like think something that wasn't true. Like you weren't trying to like mask who you actually were. You were just being yourself. So.
All of this makes me think of My Way.
I did it my way.
Goated song.
It is a goated
Thank you,
song.
Frank. There's fucking somebody with a legacy.
Indeed.
But anyways, well, we can segue on out of this if we've said our piece.
Yeah.
Going once.
Good time.
Well, there you go. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it was just something I was thinking of, and I was like, this will be slightly. It's not what I wanted to do today. Like I said before we started, I had like a quiz game thing basically ready to go, but then
I want to play a game.
Malcolm wasn't here, so I was like, all right, I guess I'll save it.
I will say that this is one of my favorite episodes in a while. I really enjoyed this one, so it's quite the good way to start the new year.
Yeah,
You're
good
not
way
here
to
next
do
week,
it.
so I can't do the quiz thing next week either.
I mean, you could do it with the guest.
And it's more of a video game thing. I don't know how much more
Also,
she's gonna want.
I realized that this is not coming out until what day of the month?
It's a little bit into the new
This will
year.
be like towards the mid part of this month or whatever. Maybe I forget.
then
I
I'll-
had the day written down.
So then I'll change what I said. It was a good way for us to start the new year, I guess.
Yeah.
But for you guys, I mean, it's not.
Yeah,
that
people
way,
will have already heard the UTM one and the one with my dad by this point going into the new year. But that's okay. Well, anyways, ladies and gentlemen, or should I say lady and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Wildly
Who's the
Adequate.
gentleman?
Pablo?
Probably Pablo.
Okay.
Thank you. Please like, share, subscribe to the channel. Check out the socials. If you're one of the like 3,000 people that watches one of our reels sometimes, maybe fucking check us out instead of just watching the reel. That's all I got. Anyways, we're done. Thank you for tuning in.
See ya.
Goodbye.